there are no rules. I think so much in business, especially with content creation and marketing, we create made up rules for ourselves because or someone told us a rule, a coach said, oh, don't do this, that doesn't work. It's like, no, anything can work, especially if it comes from a place of authenticity. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I am home from Costa Rica. Man, what a whirlwind. I actually want to do a podcast recapping the week, but I don't feel like I'm ready. I haven't been able to even take a big enough breath to process that week. So podcast coming, recapping the week, but today I'm actually talking about something that I was inspired from a bonus workshop that I hosted for our clients yesterday, and somebody asked this question as it was relating to the workshop I was teaching, and I felt like it was a really good question. So we're going to dive into that. I got home from Costa Rica, and 2 out of 3 of my kids have birthdays. They're 2 days apart. They're 2 years, 2 days apart. And so the week is always like the craziest week of the year. It feels like a Christmas week. And they, of course, want separate birthday parties. So we had a camping party at our house, and then one of their birthdays and Easter. And then now today actually is another one of their birthdays. And then we've got another sleepover party this weekend. And then I am heading to Mexico with my husband because I get to go to a Joe Dispenza week-long retreat. If you know who he is, and those retreats, you know how powerful they are. So I'm very excited, and it's a way for me to obviously work on myself and do the work that is so important if I plan to host retreats. But also, I purposely put myself in these retreats and these teachings because I am so intentional about my events and my retreats. And so I think doing the work yourself to continually hone your skill set, get inspiration from other teachers and leaders in this space is so important. So I'm very excited to share about Costa Rica. It was, of course, like beyond words, completely life changing for every woman there, and me. It's like, I mean, any event and retreat that I host constantly is a reminder to me that it's not just me, that it's something bigger than me. And before I go into a retreat, I actually pray and I ask God, use me and work through me. And I trust that I'll know what to say, how to host the workshops, what the flow should be. And there's actually a lot of like flow that goes into my retreats. Like it's not a set itinerary because I'm feeling the energy and I'm feeling the way the week is unfolding, and each morning I'm adjusting. So it's pretty special. We'll save the full recap for another podcast episode. But today I'm going to dive into content creation, specifically how to create in-depth, powerful, impactful content when you might feel burnout, you might feel overwhelmed, like you don't have enough time to create the content. And then something else that came up yesterday in our client workshop was someone said, I really struggle with comparison. I struggle with comparing myself to other people who are creating content and leaders in my space, and that impacting my content creation. So I want to actually talk about that because as soon as someone said that in the chat, there was like 4 other entrepreneurs who were like, oh my gosh, me too. So let's talk about this. Before I fully dive into today's content, I have an announcement I need to make. I'm making some shifts and changes to our Done With You program, Expand. So Expand is where we create a strategy for you and then we help you execute it with trainings, templates, daily coaching, done for you ad copy and creative, full support. It is access to an entire marketing team at an affordable price if you're not quite ready for the full done for you. And we just announced last week that we are shifting our Expand program to an open and closed door model. So it will not be available all the time. And we are closing the doors on May 12th to Expand, and we will not open it again until probably beginning of August. So not for a while, definitely not this quarter. So now is the time. If you've been on the fence, or I need support in the next 3 months, I want a marketing strategy created for me, I need help executing, I can't do it myself, this is the time to book a call and potentially get into Expand. Now, to kind of celebrate this first round, this first cohort that's going to go together live and Expand, I'm also hosting a business incubator. So anybody who's already in Expand or joins Expand this round gets to participate in a business incubator with me personally. We're going to have 4 weeks of live group coaching where I'm going to focus, these will be workshop styles. I'm going to focus on messaging, offer positioning, standing out. That's the foundation of your marketing. I know it moves the needle the most, and I'm really good at it. So I'm going to take you through a 4-week process of questions and things I ask to build this in your business. It's not really more information. It's refining your messaging, your offer positioning, and the way that you stand out as a business live with me. And then each call will also have Q&A, hot seat coaching. So this is something that I could easily and would charge $5,000 for on its own. I'm actually just wrapping up a 3-month mini coaching group that I charged $5,000 for. And this will be free for anyone who joins Expand in this round, in this cohort. So if you're interested, go to embodiedmarketing.com/expand. You can fill out a simple application, book a call. We'll only say yes, bring you in if we feel it's a mutual great fit for you, but now is the time. Because content in general is critical, right? Attention is currency. How we garner attention and build trust today is through content. It's through creation. It's through expressing yourself online, providing value, but also creating that connection. So content is really important, and authentic content is really important, and content with depth, right? So it stands out is critical. So how do you do that when a lot of people feel overwhelmed just in the day-to-day of their business right now, let alone with the idea of creating content? The first thing is this: I don't believe that endless content creation should actually be a main driver of your business's growth. Like, I don't think your strategy should be keep posting, increase the volume that you post, increase the volume that you create, and you'll see better results. The more you post, the more they'll come. I have never seen that work. First, I think that the intention behind your content creation should be connection, and more so serves as a nurturing tool to people that you're bringing in. Without getting into the strategy in depth, because you may have heard it and it is really a different episode, but I talk about visibility ads. So I talk about using a couple of pieces of content, turning that into ads, and then actually amplifying that with ads so you don't have to create a bunch of content to attract new people. But then if you've got a marketing strategy working for you, you've got an audience that you're building every day, you've got leads coming onto your list, hopefully every day, every week. We need to nurture those people. We need to create an ecosystem where they constantly hear you. They hear you, they connect with you, you're providing value, you're showing up. You are successfully garnering their attention. In order to do that, you need content. And so I think that first of all, shifting your perspective in the purpose behind content from being a sole growth driver in your business, which is not to say that it can't drive growth. It absolutely can, but it's going to only drive a small percentage of your growth because of the time it takes to create the volume. But all of these people that are coming into your world and now in your world, on your email list, following you on social media, consuming your content, they need to be nurtured. And the way we do that is through content. So first, shifting the perspective to the intention behind content, like the number one goal is literally consistency, period. Now that we have that as the goal, what is the frequency you can commit to and be consistent? Is it 1 time a week? Is it 2 times a week? Is it 2 times a month? Like, what is that consistency? And somebody shared yesterday, when I get off track and I'm not creating content consistently, I'm not showing up consistently, let's say I have a month that's really crazy and I can't show up, then I don't do it at all. And I think that's very common because us entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're all or nothing beings. We're like, we got to do it perfect to this standard that I set that's unrealistic and be posting 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever we've committed to. And if we don't do that, I'm going to do nothing. We do this with working out. It's like if I'm not doing it perfect, if I'm not working out 5 times a week and doing everything I committed to, then I'm just going to restart next week and I'm not going to do anything. So first of all, committing to what is the consistent frequency you can commit to in creating content that has depth behind it. You know that frequency. Now, if you miss a week and you're not consistent for a period of time, that's okay. I've had to remind myself of this too. It's not like there are all of these people going, Emily releases a podcast every single Tuesday. Where's the podcast? I'm sure there are some people that do that, and that's okay. That's actually really cool if there are people who know my cadence and look out for the podcast. But regardless, they're not like, oh, she's failing at business because she missed a Tuesday on the podcast. They're like, oh, there's no podcast today. I wonder why. I can't wait for the next one. And so I think we get this story in our head that if we don't show up, we almost like hide because we feel like we're failing. And so then we don't show up at all because we tell ourselves the story like we don't have enough time. What's the consistency that you can commit to? And if you fall off of that commitment, just get right back on. Tomorrow's a new day. The next thing is this: content creation requires white space for the CEO. So if your schedule is jam-packed with meetings, tech, you're wearing all the hats in your business, it is natural that you're not going to have a lot of time for content creation. Making an intentional effort to block time in your calendar that is white space, that is for creative creation of content, whether that's podcasts, videos, blogs, writing, social posts, recording a reel. The best advice I have on this, because this is what I do for myself, is batch time. Is half of a day or this day in the week. I don't have meetings and it's committed to that. Ideally, it's before you get into all the day-to-day tactics so that your brain is still in that creative space. It's before you check email. It's before you get into tech work. It's before you check Slack, texts, all those things. If you can do the content creation first, you'll access better creativity. Only you know the answer to this. So I can't sit here and give you more time. But if you are in that boat of overwhelmed in your business, likely if you looked at your week and you said, how could I restructure things to give myself an hour, 2 hours? And that is dedicated as a non-negotiable to content creation. I bet you could find it. It just has to become a priority. And it also has to not be added stress. You have to give yourself some space to actually do that. Now, depth. I believe right now that depth is really important in content. So what am I saying? I mean original thoughts, things that really showcase your values, your beliefs, your responses to things happening in your industry, your opinions, your methods, your process. With AI, those are things that AI can't replace. And I said this on the training yesterday, but I've actually been playing with AI a little bit more. I felt resistant to it in the beginning. My team uses it way more than I do, but I am seeing the power for sure in it. And I'm probably going to do an episode in the near future on the things I've been doing with it. But it's not replacing me in content creation. And I think that I think AI is a support. And so even if you use AI to help you create content, you have to feed it the original thoughts. You have to feed it the idea. So it still requires your experience, your expertise, your wisdom, your beliefs, your values, all of that. And AI can be a support. But you can tell when an AI created content that sounds like everybody else. And then there is content that you can create that you wouldn't be able to tell that AI helped with it because the person using it infused it with original thought and original beliefs. And that's still your job. And I think that will be very important with using AI. So if we need this depth when creating content, you have to give yourself the space for the depth. But I challenge you to look at, when you're needing ideas of what to create content, think about conversations that you've had with friends, clients, customers, people in your DMs, team members, coaches. That's the gold for your content. I am right now creating a podcast episode that was inspired by a workshop I taught yesterday. And because someone asked a question and 5 other people were like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm also struggling with this. Immediately, I'm like, this is a great topic. And so I speak about the way I responded and my values and my beliefs and, how I view that. And that's how I create the content. So all the time is my content creation driven by what is happening in my day-to-day life, specifically conversations I'm having in my day-to-day life and things that are coming up. And so if you're struggling with, I don't know what to create content on, because it's a horrible feeling when you're like, I've got to create a video, I've got to record a podcast, and I don't know what it should be. Reflect on, in the last week, conversations that you had, questions people asked you, thoughts you maybe had. All the time, do I record a podcast episode on something I thought of when I was driving? Like it, just flows in. So having a notes or something where you capture those is really helpful, because you really want to have that depth, that original thought. And so whenever you can tap into your beliefs and values and things that you believe and others don't, and push that edge a little bit as it relates to your niche, the more your content's going to stand out. Okay. The other thing is, I think content creation is really easy when you make it easy. When you align how you're creating your content, what you're talking about, with things you love talking about, you could talk about all the time. And if you love to write and writing's really easy for you, then you write. If you love to record videos, you do that. If however you can use your creativity, because content is art, 100%, and everybody has the ability to create it, some better than others. But when you look at what comes natural to you and how could you make it easy? When you imagine yourself creating a weekly piece of content, it might push your comfort zone right now, or maybe it doesn't. But what does that look like? That would feel easy and the least amount of resistance attached to it. Because the more you can create that ease, the less you're going to procrastinate creating content, the less overwhelmed you're going to feel about creating content, and therefore you won't put it off and be like, I have these 5 things on my to-do list and so I can't create this. So make it easy. Align with what feels easy and good. I really believe that if we put ourselves into situations where we're doing things that we love, we're talking about things that we love, we're aligning everything we're doing with what we're naturally good at, our passions, our superpowers, our gifts, that you won't burn out. I think we burn out when there's resistance, when there is a force happening and we're forcing ourselves to create content in a way we don't want to. We're forcing ourselves to talk about things we don't want to. So catch those moments and notice that. And then notice the times that you feel lit up. You're like, I could do this all day. This was so easy for me. I could do this all day. It's fun. It's easy. Notice what those things are. Notice the opposite and try to cater as much as possible. I mean, it's not 100% possible. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices. For example, I don't love having to record video podcasts when I don't want to get ready that day, but I make the sacrifice because I see the value in it. But I could record podcasts and sit here and talk all day long. I could sit here and interview my incredible entrepreneur friends and connections all day long. I make it easy for myself. YouTube videos, on the other hand, they're challenging for me to make. Tried it, stopped it. It's just not for me, making those technical videos. Okay, also, a couple more points on this. Don't put yourself in a box. I think oftentimes with content creation, we see what other people are doing, which I'm going to talk about. We see what other people are doing and we go, I need to do it like that. I need to create reels. I need to record a podcast. I need to post carousels. I need to do XYZ. And we put ourselves in this box and we create these arbitrary rules for ourselves about how you create good content. But the reality is this: the best content is original thoughts and original ideas, not trending, not what's trending. Like, yeah, you could look on Instagram and find, or TikTok, and find a video that's trending and replicate that, strategy in your social. But is that really like the best content? No, I mean, the best content that really takes off and attracts at a high level of ideal customers and connects with them is original thought, is you being you in whatever way that wants to be expressed, and providing value through sharing your experience, sharing your beliefs, sharing an opinion you have, sharing a piece of value you have based on your experience and what you know is the way to get to where someone wants to go. That's good content. There are no rules. I think so much in business, especially with content creation and marketing, we create made up rules for ourselves because or someone told us a rule, a coach said, oh, don't do this, that doesn't work. It's like, no, anything can work, especially if it comes from a place of authenticity. Follow those moments of inspiration. And if you catch yourself going, oh, but I don't know if that's going to work, so-and-so did it this way, or I see this on Instagram, and kind of questioning, catch yourself in those moments and do it anyways. Because the reality is this, with content creation, you don't have a lot to lose. Like, it doesn't have a lifespan for very long. So the more you are in motion and creating and showing up consistently and trying different things, that's what leads to the next thing. That's what improves your skill in creating content and your experience in getting feedback, both from yourself and your audience, about what does work, what does feel good, what is easy, what's not easy. The more you can stay in motion, the better. Finally, I want to talk about comparing yourself to others and the noise. So somebody on my training yesterday said, I find myself often following industry leaders and people in my space for inspiration, and then comparing myself and getting caught in mine's not good enough, or I can't do it like that. And I think this is a really important point, because I think we can tell ourselves that we're going on Instagram and looking for inspiration, when in reality, it's noise. And there is so much noise that I really think limiting your consumption, especially from people in your industry that you can easily compare yourself to, will only enhance your creativity in your own content creation. So my challenge to my clients and to you guys is, what would happen if for 30 days you limited your consumption? You either didn't follow anybody in your industry or look at content from people in your industry, or you didn't look at any content. Last year, I went 60 days without consuming anything on social media, actually for an experiment to see what it would do to my content creation. And it way boosted my creativity. So what if you cut out your consumption? You did no consumption, or you limited the consumption specifically for people in your industry. And instead of telling yourself, oh, I need that for inspiration, it's like, do you really? Or if you really tuned inward to the knowledge and the wisdom and the experience you already have, and you created from that place, would you create even better content? And it's a very good experiment to do. I really think limiting the noise for CEOs is so important, not just for this reason, but in general. And I said this quote, someone said this quote to me like 2 months ago, and I think I've repeated it like 5 times since then. But there's a reason why racehorses wear blinders. And I love that. It's like, you are the racehorse in your business. I had a mentor once who said, treat yourself like the $1 million racehorse. The self-care, the way you manage your time and energy, like the $1 million racehorse, everything is so careful in the way that they're cared for. And there's a reason why they wear blinders, to not watch the other horses, because it can mess up their race. Same with CEOs. Put the blinders on. Only allow in the advice and the information that you know is going to add to your inspiration, to your creativity, to your success, to your clarity and tune everything else out. You have to be radically intentional with the noise because the noise is insane. Myself included. Getting on Instagram, getting on social media, I can very easily end up in a rabbit hole of comparison, overwhelm, chaos in my mind. And you bet I don't show up as good for my company, for my team, for the ability to make clear decisions, for overall clarity on my thinking. 100% it impacts me. Limit the noise, especially if you're a content creator, because the best content is from original thoughts. It's not from a trend. It's not using specific audio. It's the original thoughts that you already have. Every one of you. That's the thing, is you don't have to search for good content. It's pulling out what's already in you from your unique experience, your wisdom, your knowledge, your values as a person, your unique makeup. That is the good content. So I hope this helps you guys find some ideas for creating content when you might be feeling overwhelmed. You might be feeling burnout. You might be feeling like you're failing at creating content and showing up consistently. And you might be in that comparison trap of comparing other people. One other thing I'll say on that just came to me is, it's easy to compare also with people who are like 5 years, 10 years farther than you are in your journey. And you have to understand a lot of those people have a full team. They have been creating content for years. You're naturally going to get better at creating content the more content you create. You got to start somewhere. I think I just saw on my Facebook a memory of me doing one of my first Facebook Lives in my car. And it's terrible. Like the way I talk, I'm all nervous. It's not very good. But for me in that moment, it was the best I could do. It was good enough. And after 7 years of podcast episodes and how much content creation I've done, of course I'm going to get better at content creation. But someone just starting out or a few years in or 1 year in or never had a podcast before, you've got to start. I know it's so cliche to be like, you've got to start somewhere, but it's so true. Like you can't get better at doing these things by reading books, following trends, asking people for advice, listening to podcasts, going to seminars. Like experience is where the quality comes in and the growth comes in, and that's the only way. So the more you can stay in motion, the more you can commit to the consistency and really surrender the outcomes. Make consistency the goal, and I promise you, like go a year with consistent content creation that comes from the heart, that aligns with you and your natural talents and wisdom and skills, and just see what happens. And I promise you, can only be positive results. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will talk to you next time.